we have one more item. Number 9, South Yuba City annexation election. It's actually going to be a information-only item now, and,
Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification, we will be asking for council direction this evening.
oh, you will be
Yes.
asking? Okay.
Yeah, I want to start off just in case there's anybody here who wanted to address it. Thank you.
Okay. And would Darren Gale Singh please make the presentation?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Darren Gale, your Economic Growth and Public Affairs Manager. For those watching at home, today we had a Sikh awareness program before the council, and they taught us how to wrap the turban, and I was one of those who had really the opportunity and the honor to have AJ wrap the turban. So, and I think many of the council members have had that done in the past. So, I appreciate Sikh Sidhu and the council members for this program today. I stand before you this evening to talk about the South Yuba City annexation. The South Yuba City annexation includes approximately just under 1,400 developed parcels, which covers approximately 625 acres. The area is commonly known as South Yuba City. There are other names that people use out there, but these people are residents basically from Lincoln Road along Highway 99 south to Bogue Road, and both on the east and the west side of Highway 99. This area has been developed for many years. The residents receive fire service. The residents also receive water service. Well over the majority receive water service. There are a small portion that do have wells. With that being said, it's very important to note that if anyone was to annex into the city, if this area was to annex into the city, these residents would be able to maintain their wells and would not be required to connect to city water. They can continue to maintain their well. Now, once they're in the city, if they want to connect to city water, they can do that. There is a cost and a fee just like anyone who is a new connection to our water service. This process started back in April of 2016. Since that time, unfortunately, many residents have received misinformation. As I mentioned, they've been told that you'll have to connect to city water. Also, they've been told that you'll have to connect to city sewer. This, again, is not a true statement. Their regulations as relates to city sewer will remain exactly the same today as it would if they were annexed into the city. The county actually oversees, the Environmental Health Department oversees the septic tanks, and the city would not require them to connect into the city sewer system. Currently, this area is surrounded by 3 sides by the city. At your July 18th, 2017 council meeting, the council directed staff to try to work with our state elected officials to look at a legislative change of how the process that LAFCO moves forward. Unfortunately, it was determined that there really was not an opportunity to propose a piece of legislation that they thought would move through and change the Cortese-Knox Acts, which is the act that LAFCO goes over. However, during that process, one of the residents of the annexation area is Assemblymember James Gallagher, and he did express his full support to the South Yuba City annexation. This evening, the action was to actually approve a resolution and a contract that would go forward to the county. Unfortunately, as of this evening, the Sutter County Elections Office has not provided us an actual date for the election. The election will be if the council decides to move forward, will be a mail ballot election, and there will still be a date that the actual election occurs. And then, as many of you know, there's the process of when the mail-in ballots are actually mailed to residents, and then they have to be actually postmarked by a certain date, the date of the election, and that's how the election would occur. The LAFCO board did approve this at their May 24th meeting. We have 1 year to move forward with an election. The city staff is asking that the election occur in either February or March. And once the county elections office finalizes that, we would bring it back to the city council for final approval. What we're asking for this evening is for the council to make a motion to move forward with an election. And then at a future meeting, we would actually bring back the actual resolutions with the specific dates that would go to the Board of Supervisors for approval. The cost of the election is approximately $15,000. That's what the election office has told us. One of the other things we do, which we have already done, we've held numerous community meetings within the annexation area held at Lindcrest Elementary School. City staff would continue to do that if the council decide to move forward with an election. The election would be an actual election of registered voters. So although there's 1,400 parcels or property owners out there, the election, as required by state law, occurs by registered voters. So all registered voters within the area would have an opportunity to vote. So this evening, the request would be to move forward, to make a motion to move forward with an election and to bring back final resolutions for the council consideration as soon as the county elections office provides that. At this time, I can answer any questions. I do know that we had received one request from a Live Oak resident, Mr. Bob Renton, who would like to speak on this item.
Okay, I'll bring it first back to the council for any quick comments.
Through the mayor, just Darren, how is it that Yuba City provides fire protection for this area?
So I can't give you all the details. Probably our city manager might be able to give the specifics. But Community Service Area G, did I get that right? We have an agreement between the city and the county to provide services for this area. That was created to take in our sphere of influence area. I believe it was also agreed upon when the Walton Fire District was combined into the city back September 11th of 2001 when that occurred.
So the additional question that I have is Service Area G fully solvent with the income for service?
It costs more to provide the services for Service Area G than we receive funding for.
So the residents of Yuba City already supplement fire protection for an area not inside the city?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Through the mayor?
Don't go up there yet. I haven't asked you to go there. I haven't asked you, Bob, you haven't been asked to go up yet.
Through the mayor? Yeah, I got a couple questions, please, Darren, that I'd like to ask you to bring up for the folks that aren't here that they can view this. Question one, and I'll give you both of them. Tenants were told that if they're annexed in, there'll be mandatory curb and gutter will have to be put in their front yards. Can you elaborate on that? And also, the folks were also told that they were going to be responsible for paying our retirement deficit that the city owes. And could you please elaborate on that, please, so the folks can hear this at home?
Yeah, absolutely. So great questions, and I'm glad you asked them, Councilmember Cardoza. So residents, the current development that is in that area would remain the same. So if your street does not have streetlights will not be installed. If your street does not have curb, gutter, and sidewalk or drainage, those would not be installed. Now, if the residents wanted to put those in and pay for themselves, obviously the city would help them through that process, as would the county today. As relates to the pension obligations, the residents, we pay for that through both property tax and sales tax. Within this area, there is very little sales tax generation. There's a Honda dealership and a gas station. So any resident who's shopping to buy themselves groceries is paying for sales tax, which then some of those funds are then used to pay for city services. Those city services include all salaries and all benefits, which would include the pensions for city employees. And I'm glad you asked, since there might be residents home watching this. One of the biggest issues is actually related to public safety. Currently, our Sheriff's Department does an amazing job of providing services across the 608 square mile county. On any given night, at the most, they might have 3 deputies that are actually out responding to calls. And many times, it's only 2 deputies. If this area would be annexed into the city would add 5 sworn officers, 1 community service officer, and also a dispatcher, and would create a new beat. The way that the city provides our police public safety service, we currently have 5 beats. That would expand to 6. And they also have a sergeant on duty who oversees those full beats. So instead of this area being covered by 2 to possibly 3 deputies in the evening over a 608 square mile, you would have now at a minimum 7 officers that would be out actively patrolling the area for a much smaller area. Currently, the city limits is approximately 15 square miles. So right now, folks who live in this area, many times their deputy might be in East Nicholas or Rio Oso. It's one of the reasons why Assemblymember Gallagher expressed his support for the annexation was the result of the improvement to public safety, not just for city residents, but also for unincorporated Sutter County residents, because their deputies would then be able to spend more time in the rural area and not responding to urban calls within the Happy Park area and the South Yuba City area.
Thank you, Darren.
Great.
To the mayor,
Yes.
so as we bring up public safety and agreements that were made years ago, can you elaborate a little bit on the master tax exchange agreement? Because that's a critical part of how this is built and funds forward, both for Sutter County and for Yuba City.
So Sutter County and the city of Yuba City have an agreement called our master tax exchange agreement. I'll call it our tax agreement. And as the city, as the county and the city made a determination of development is going to occur within the sphere of influences of the cities, being the city of Yuba City and the city of Live Oak. And that the development that occurred within the county would then be annexed into the city if the residents so approved. As that process kind of expanded, there were certain triggers in the tax sharing agreement. And one of the triggers was related to when police service would be provided for the area south of Franklin Road. And earlier I might have said Lincoln Road, so I apologize. Franklin is the north boundary. When 82% of existing properties within the sphere of influence are annexed into the city, then the city would trigger the agreement, which then we would start providing for public safety. And one of the things I've heard is, well, you can just change the agreement. Well, that's not efficient government. The reason being that we have the agreement the way we do for the county to continue providing services to current city residents that live south of Franklin down to Bogue, and for the South Yuba City area, was efficient government. Number one, for the county to try to provide services to this unincorporated area that's surrounded by 3 sides of the city is very difficult and is inefficient for them. At the same time, for the city, it wouldn't be efficient for the city to provide services to the South Walton area when it annexed and not cover the South Yuba City area. So it's not as simple as changing the agreement. Could that occur? Absolutely. Would it be inefficient use of government and public funds? Absolutely. It would be, we would not, both the county and the city would not be providing a better benefit to our residents by trying to provide services in that manner.
Anybody else? Okay, we do have Mr. Bob Renton, written request, a Live Oak resident, like to speak.
Good evening to all of the audience and the council. My name is Bob Renton on Luther Road near Live Oak and also Hun Road near Yuba City. To prevent another accusation of lying to the council and the audience, I would like to add that I maintain our family home of 62 years on Hun Road in Yuba City. And I spend at least 1 day a week there and sometimes overnight. Now, going on to important points here, if Yuba City was serious about providing police coverage to the Walton area, they could have done that easily about 18 months ago, and by simply meeting with the county and changing that master tax agreement. Now, it's been done once before. There's only one place in the entire master tax agreement where 82% is entered. Change that number to 70%, and it's just an arbitrary number. Now, I would love somebody to explain to me why that is so much more difficult than annexing the Keyhole area, because you've got a chore on your hands. The city manager was quoted in February of 16 as saying that 70% of the dwellings within the South Beach area are already within Yuba City limits. I don't see much difference between 70 and 82%. Now, you have already been informed by that the city budget is facing serious challenges, at least in the text of the document that Robin was going to present, related to CalPERS' future impacts on your budget. Now, taking on a money-losing area will not help your budget one bit. Your city manager informed you that this annexation will trigger a net cost of $300,000 annually, carrying cost of total, and a $1.1 million startup cost. Now, changing the master tax agreement, in my opinion, is far less costly. Granted, this is a complicated subject, and I stand ready to be educated. Now, if you do that, then suddenly Walton will get their police coverage. And my data shows that our group, our opposition, are in 80% against this annexation. Now, as a side note, I have reviewed the LAFCO files extensively, even the Walton annexation, and I've yet to see a single letter requesting police service. Mr. Gale has stated that the Walton residents have been asking for police service. I asked Mr. Gale if he had any letters to support that. He said he does not. Now, back to the delay. The city has delayed this vote until legislators could be consulted about voting changes to the LAFCO law. And it was made clear to me that Assemblyman Gallagher was not interested in legislative attempts to change LAFCO law. And I wish to remind the council that there is already a method in LAFCO law for landowners to vote, even if they are not residents of that area. Now, Yuba City staff, senior staff, has long been aware of that method. Finally, I note that Mr. Buckland attended the May 24th LAFCO meeting as a commissioner and voted no to the authorization of the vote. Pardon me if I'm incorrect, but I have a printed document that indicates that. I found that baffling that Mr. Buckland would vote no to authorizing the vote. So I'm confused. This was a LAFCO resolution to send this annexation forward to a popular vote of the residents of the area. And Mr. Buckland is recorded in the LAFCO minutes to have voted no. So in conclusion, I would like to ask Mr. Buckland I would like to invite Mr. Buckland to offer his reasons to the audience after so much Yuba City energy has been expended to bring this to a vote. Thank you for your time.
Okay, he's finished. It is not necessary for us to respond, but if anyone desires to.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
I'll be happy to respond. Mr. Renton is quite correct that I was the only dissenting vote regarding that. I do want to go back and address a couple things, and then I'll get to the vote and why I voted that way, and it'll probably make some sense to Mr. Renton once I do that. Letters to LAFCO regarding police services are not a necessary element to move forward with trying to provide police services in that area. Simple requests by the hundreds in that area. When I have run for office twice now, I have walked every residence that is a registered voter in that area. The popular question at every door was, when are we going to get police services? It was an overwhelming request for police services. So that's why we have moved forward over time. My vote at the LAFCO meeting was fairly simple. I disagree with the fact that the vote that is required is that of registered voters. It's as simple as that. I believe that the property owners within that area who have an investment in that area should have a vote for whether they choose to come in or not. To have a renter be able to decide whether or not your residence comes in or not is contrary to how I believe as a property owner, my rights as a property owner have been squashed by somebody that is simply occupying a residence for rent. The choice that I would have as a property owner is to come into the city and I may gain value in my residence. I may have other options that aren't currently available by coming into the city. And certainly I increase the public safety component for my residents. To have rental properties that have a total, one rental property has a total of 18 registered voters on it. Those registered voters will outweigh the choice of the property owner. The property owner has no vote because he doesn't live there, and the 18 that are registered on that property can all vote. That, to me, is a disproportionate vote, and that's why I directly spoke with Assemblyman Gallagher. I've also spoke with Assembly members from Southern California to be able to look at what the possibilities were. Travis Allen was the other one that I spoke to. Southern California, Travis Allen tends to agree with me. The Northern California delegation doesn't. So that's the direction we went. I wanted to be able to have an option open, and that is for the public to understand that the reason I dissented on and went away from the group was to leave the options open. I wanted to be on record to be able to say, I don't agree with the process. I don't agree with the process of the type of vote. I will probably never be convinced that that's the way to vote. So I hope that answers it.
Any other questions or comments from council members? Now let's bring that back to the recommended vote. A was to move forward with an election. B would be come back in the future with a resolution with an election date specific. Is that what
So,
enough?
so I would say the resolution or the motion would be to direct staff to move forward with an election process and to bring back the resolution with a date to the council as soon as we receive that from the elections office.
That's on the recording, so they'll be able to get that right.
The other option would be to terminate the current process and to stop, to withdraw our LAFCO application.
Okay, is there, and that's the alternative. So any discussion on either direction before we move for action? Okay, with that, I'm looking for some action.
Well, through the mayor,
Yes.
I'll do staff's recommendation A to move forward.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Is that the whole thing?
Well,
what he
the
said,
what is already
the
recommended.
resolution and
Yeah.
so on
Two
and so
things
forth.
you recommended.
Right.
And I would, if that's your,
Yes, A.
then I would second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed, so it's 4-1. It passes. And that's probably based upon the same principle you had before. Yep.
Same principle as what I discussed.
And I'm about, I'm almost balanced on that one also. Same agreement with that.